Hi friends, it's Deanna here today, and today we're going to be working on the puffy sleeve top. This one is super cute. It is a cute little top that has the cutest little puff sleeves. So let's sew it up together. The first thing I'm going to do, as you can see, I've got all my pattern pieces here. A lot of times I like to go ahead and leave the pattern piece paper with it. That way I know exactly what they are. And then I don't get confused later in time. But look at this fabric. Isn't it gorgeous? I got this from Olga's closet a little while ago and it is just so perfect and so sweet. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my bodice front and back, and I'm going to sew those shoulder seams. I am using my serger today, but if you don't have a serger, any kind of stretch stitch on your sewing machine will work. So let me go ahead and sew those real quick, and then we'll come back to the next step. Once those shoulders are sewn, if you want to do your hem, do a little bit of a memory fold on your hem, you can fold it 1/2 inch up and give it like a memory fold, so that way when you go to hem it at the end, it's easier. So sometimes that works easier. My iron is off right now, so I'm just gonna leave it for now. But that's also a helpful hint. I'm gonna open up my bodice. This is my shoulder seam, and I'm gonna grab my sleeve. So I'm gonna fold my sleeve in half and find my top of my sleeve and mark it. I mark that by doing a little snippety snip. And I love doing that because it's not big enough to be, like, once we sew it, it'll be eaten in my seam allowance. But if for some reason my pin moves or anything, I know exactly where that is. So we're gonna match that up with my seam, shoulder seam, right sides together. And then we're gonna go down one side, matching those raw edges, and the other side matching those raw edges. Sometimes I only put one pin, but if you are a little bit worried, you can just match up those raw edges really nicely, because you're gonna be stretching it out just a little bit and then pin throughout the sleeve, and that's where you're gonna sew. I'm gonna do the same for the other sleeve as well. Let's sew them. I am honestly like wishing I would have made this in an adult size. We don't have this pattern in adult size, but I mean a top like this in adult size. I might have to see if I have more of this fabric because this is so gorgeous. I am loving it. I'm going to turn it now right sides together and match those sides. So down my sleeve and then down my bodice, and I'm gonna sew those sides together. And while I'm at it, I'm also gonna go ahead and grab my neckband and prep that. So let me show you that. Got my neckband right here. I'm gonna fold it wrong sides together. And this time my iron should be hot enough, and I'm going to steam it wrong sides together to create that crease. That way, once I sew it on the round, when I go to turn it, it'll fold easily. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew that right there too on the round. The short edges together, right sides together. So let's do those. All right, now that our sides are sewn, we're gonna work on our neckband. I'm gonna fold it wrong sides together. I'm gonna match the back and go to the front, from the back to the front, and that's gonna be my half. And then the back and the front go to the sides, and those are gonna be my quarters. And I'm just notching them like I showed you earlier on my sleeve. I do the same thing for pretty much everything. I'm gonna grab my neck. I'm gonna turn it right side out. Hey, you can go right now and hem that the bottom of the top at a 1/2 inch allowance. If you want to see tips and tricks about hemming, we do have a couple videos on our YouTube channel about that, so go check those out. All right, I'm gonna grab the shoulder seams and go to the front. Shoulder seams, go to the back. Front and back together, and go to the sides, and those will be your quarters. The bigger your size, the more of a difference there is between the shoulder seam and where your quarter is gonna be. Your shoulder seams are not your quarters. If you go by your shoulder seams, you will end up having an uneven neckband. So make sure you go by your quarters. Then I'm gonna go ahead and pin the neckband to those quarters, so match them up. And I'm going to go over to my serger and sew it on. To sew my neckband, I like to start in the back where my seam is. I like to do my band face up and get that needle down in there. I'm going to grab where my quarter point is, and I'm gonna line up my raw edges, stretching out lightly so it matches correctly, and then I'm gonna sew. Once I get to that quarter point, I will remove my pin and go to the next quarter point and do the whole process again, getting it all lined up and ready, and then keep going the same way all the way around. The more I sew this top, the more I fall in love with it. If you want to, you can steam this down and top stitch around. I'm not going to, but you can if you want. How cute is this? Okay, so I'm gonna put that aside and we're gonna work on our sleeve. So we're gonna grab our ruffle, which is the bigger one, and these are our connectors. And I'm gonna go over to my machine and gather my ruffle all the way, my puff sleeve, I guess, gather the top and the bottom so that it's the width of my connector. So I'm gonna go do that. I am gathering my connector by using a long straight stitch on my machine. I'm going to pull a tail out, and what I like to do is, so my stitch is set on a 4 because that's as wide as my stitch will go on my sewing machine. Some will go down to like a 6, up to a 6 or whatever, so it's really up to you. I've got down now, and what I like to do is I like to grab my thread at the top and hold it a little bit to give it more tension, or you can just tighten your tension and it will gather for you a little bit. At the end, make sure that you give it a good long thread so that way you can gather if you need to gather any more. All right, now to finish gathering these ruffles, I'm gonna pull on that bobbin stitch and kind of gather it a little bit more so that that is the width of our connector. All right, so now once that's done, I'm going to grab my one of my sides, and I'm gonna put them right sides together on top of the connector, and I'm going to sew them together, evening out those ruffles, those gathers, so they're all even. And I'm gonna do that for both connectors. Just one of the sides I'm gonna sew on to the right side, so we're sewing them right sides together. All right, now that it's sewn, we're gonna fold them right sides together along that side raw edge, and we're going to sew that. Look at that! Once that's sewn, we're gonna go ahead and grab it and that connector and pull it up to where the raw edge of the ruffle, the gathered area, is over here. What I can do, what I like to do sometimes, is I like to go ahead and grab from the outer and mark my half of my sleeve already. That way I have it here, and when I go to put it on, that kind of will help me. So then we match up those raw edges. So that's wrong sides together, they're touching. Right here where that seam is, pin that, and then go to the other side where my half is. Since you already gathered this, it should be the same width as the gathering should be the same width right now, so they should line up nicely. Here's my other half. I'm gonna grab my sleeve and mark my half. So here's my seam, here's my half, and I'm going to fit this sleeve right into this cuff and match right here where that seam is, so it's right sides together with the ruffle, with the gathered area, and match right there. And then where I marked my half right here, match that right on the other side. And now I'm gonna go back, and with that gathered sandwich right in between, the right side of the gather touching the right side of the sleeve, I'm going to go ahead and sew all the way around, and I'm gonna do that for both sleeves. So So I'm gonna like sew that one up and put it on there and do it, and we'll be done. As you're sewing, make sure you've got all 3 layers sandwiched in there. And I like to kind of turn it like this so that I can face these out and look at them. And kind of go slowly too as I'm doing it. That way I can match it up along the way. We are done. I went ahead and hemmed and removed my basting stitches off my sleeves. Look at that poof. I love this so much. It is beautiful. You know what would be really, really cool, and I didn't even think about it, maybe next time I make it? If I made the sleeves like a whitish, bluish, like a really light blue, like clouds with a rainbow. Isn't that a smart idea? Tell me that wasn't a smart idea. I can't believe I came up with that. But anyway, it is super, super cute. I am loving it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please let me know if you have any questions. Comment, like, share, subscribe to our channel if you haven't, so you can be entered for a chance to win a $50 Ellie and Matt gift certificate. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all next time.